Last class explained up to the genus specific test of trichotomopallidum. Now next part is species specific test. It includes first test is TPI. It is also known as trichotomopallidum immobilization test. Here in this case, the serum is incubated with Nicol strain of trichotomopallidum in a complex media under anaerobic conditions. If the serum contains antibodies, this trichotomopallidum immobilized. So this trichotomopallidum immobilized due to the presence of these antibodies. This test is very specific and gold standard test because of its expensive, cumbersome, and it requires so much of facilities, lab facilities. It is available only in a few laboratories only. Okay, this test is a most specific, and at the same time it's a gold standard test for syphilis in serology. Next test is TPHA. TPHA means trichotomopallidum heme agglutination test. Here in this case, tanned sheep erythrocytes tanned erythrocytes are it's mixed with extracts of trichotomopallidum. The trichotomopallidum strain is Nicol strain, which is used as an antigen. Okay, the sera that to be tested is observed with Ritter strain and along with the erythrocytes. If the test contains this, if the test contains antibodies, this agglutination can be seen, indicates the positive result. This test is also called microhemoagglutination, which can be automated. Let's see here this is the procedure. What happens in TPHA? Here, if the test is positive, agglutination can be seen as a mat at the base of the microtiter well. If the test is negative, the particles can be seen as a button at the base of the microtiter well. If the agglutination is seen both in test serum and also in controls, it can be considered as a non-specific agglutination. So this is the microtiter well showing the positive and negative microtiter wells, positive negative test serum. Here this is positive, indicating a mat-like appearance at the bottom of the microtiter well, and this microtiter well showing a button-like particles present at the bottom of the microtiter well. Okay, this test replace the TPA test. This test, along with not only this test, another test, that is FTABS test, also replace the TPA test, that is trichotomopallidum immobilization test. This FTABS test is nothing but fluorescent trichodermal antibody absorption test. What is the procedure that is involved in the FTABS test? Here, the slide is smeared with Nicol strain of trichotomopallidum, which acts as an antigen. Okay, this is a picture showing the slide coated with the trichotomopallidum, which acts as an antigen. After that, the sera is added onto the slide. If the sera contains antibody specific to the trichotomopallidum, they will go and bind to the spirochete. So after washing, unbound antibodies are washed away. So this is the picture showing the antibody bound to the spirochete, trichotomopallidum. Next step is we have to know whether the antibody is bound to the tripanopardum. It can be identified by placing by adding fluorescent anti-human gamma globulin to the slide. Fluorescent anti-human gamma globulin. That means antibody. This antibody which is bound to the tripanoma pallidum, bound to the tripanoma pallidum is an antibody to this. Is an antibody to that. Here, this if the serum contains antibody, this anti-human gamma globulin will go and bind to the human IgG antibodies, which is bound to the tripanoma pallidum. So after a wash, all unbound anti-human gamma globulin is washed away from the slide. It can be if it is positive, that is the presence of antibody, can be identified by using the fluorescent microscope, where the spirochetes will fluoresce. This is the picture showing the tripanoma pallidum. Antibody against this is binded to this antibody. This anti-human gamma globulin is bound, which is tagged with fluorescent stain. This is a picture showing the under the fluorescent microscope this elongated coiled structure indicates the tripanoma pallidum. The test serum is positive. Next test is ELISA. This ELISA test is also available, is also one of the important serological diagnostic tests for the syphilis. Here, microtiter wells are coated with the tripanoma pallidum, which acts as an antigen. To that, specimen is added. Test specimen is added, which may contain, this specimen may contain antibody or it may not contain antibody. For diagnosis, for detection of this antibody, we are using this ELISA test. After an incubation period, unbound components are washed away. Unbound components in the test sample are washed away in a during the process of washing. After that, we have to add the anti-human IgG antibody, which is bound to the horseradish peroxidase, and it is incubated. And it is incubated in the and it is incubated. If the serum contains specific antibody, it will go and bound to the IgG. So after a second wash, unbound this anti-human IgG antibody are washed away. After that, following a second wash, specifically bound enzyme conjugate is detected. So what we had seen in the last step, that is horseradish peroxidase during the second incubation, that is enzyme conjugate, which is bound to the IgG antibody, is detected by reaction with the hydrogen peroxide and the chromogen. The color reaction is measured by using the spectrophotometrically to indicate the presence or absence of the specific antibody. So this is about the ELISA test that we can use in serology for syphilis. So here in serological test, this TPI is replaced. TPI, which is more expensive, can be replaced by this TPHA and fluorescent tripanol antibody absorption test. So whenever we get the positive in STS test, that is non-specific non-specific test for non-specific test for syphilis like VDRL or RPR. It should be confirmed with this FTA-ABS test and also the TPHA test. This is about the serological test of the syphilis. And if you see the treatment protocol which had given by CDC in primary, secondary, and early latent syphilis, benzathine penicillin can be benzathine penicillin containing 2.4 million units can be given. But alternately, doxycycline can be given BD for 14 days. Next stage, that is in late latent syphilis of unknown duration or tertiary syphilis. In this case, again benzathine penicillin 2.4 million units 4th hourly. 2.4 million units weekly for 3 weeks should be given. Alternatively, doxycycline can be given BD dose for 28 days. In case of tertiary syphilis, quaternary syphilis or neurosyphilis, we have aqueous crystalline penicillin, penicillin 18 to 24 million units per day should be given as 3 to 4 million units in IV every 4 hours at about 10 to 14 days. Alternatively, procaine penicillin or probenecid can be given as a treatment protocol in case of syphilis. And if you see the prevention and control of this syphilis infection, health education is very important regarding this. Regarding the stages of health education is given to the individuals, like using physical barriers so as to avoid the sexual contact of infected individuals. By using physical barriers, it can be avoided, or by using the antibiotics or by using the antiseptics like potassium permanganate may minimize the risk of this transmission of the infection. Screening also plays an important role for the prevention and control of this syphilis. In case of pregnant woman, at the time of prenatal visit, screening should be done, and the second test should be done at second screening test should be done at 28 weeks of gestation, so as to prevent or control the transmission of the infection to avoid the congenital syphilis to the fetus. And screening also should be done for individuals who are with other STDs or persons who have high risk behavior like drug users, IV drug users, or prostitutes, like etc. And screening also should be done in occupational exposures, like for example, doctors or nurses. On accidental exposure, they may get the syphilis infection. So it can be avoided by regular screening of the by using the RPR. And here, no vaccine is available. In syphilis, no vaccine is available. Still, they are in under trials. So next, this completes the syphilis, and next we have some subspecies are also there for Treponema pallidum. The first one is Pertinae. Here, this Pertinae is found in tropics. In India, it is found in Andhra Pradesh, Orissa, and in Madhya Pradesh. It causes a Yas disease. It is usually transmitted by the direct contact. It doesn't transmitted by sexual route. It mainly causes gummatous lesions, gummatous bone lesions, most commonly seen. Secondary syphilis and tertiary syphilis are also seen in this case, but there is no involvement of the neurovascular or cardiovascular involvement. Treatment and laboratory diagnosis is as per syphilis only. In this case, serological test for syphilis is reactive. This is a picture showing the skin dermatous skin lesions, chronic granulomatous lesions on the skin. Next subspecies of Treponema pallidum is Treponema endemicum, which causes the basal or endemic syphilis. It is mainly seen in young children. Here in this case, there is no. Here in this case, we will see only the clinical manifestation of secondary syphilis followed by tertiary syphilis. In secondary syphilis, we will see clinical manifestations that we will see are skin lesions or mucus granulomatous lesions. It is usually seen in young children. Here also there is no involvement of the there is no involvement of the cardiovascular or neurovascular involvement. It is completely curable with the penicillin. Treatment protocols and laboratory diagnosis is same as that of the syphilis. This is a picture showing the mucus granulomatous lesions and skin lesions in basal disease. Next one is other species. That the other species, next species of Treponema pallidum, subspecies of Treponema pallidum is Caratia. This is usually seen in Central, South America, and Caribbean region. In this case, it usually causes the pinta. In this case, we'll see hyperpigmented, hypopigmented lesions. Hyperpigmented lesions. Here, treatment protocol and laboratory diagnosis is same as that of the syphilis. Yes, this completes the Treponema pallidum. Next topic is Borrelia and Leptospira. Here, these are also comes under the genus Spirochaetaceae, comes under the family Spirochaetaceae. This is now I am going to tell about the genus Borrelia. The first Borrelia. Here, these are large, motile, refractous spirochetes with irregular, wide-opened coils. If you see in Treponema pallidum, there the coils are regularly arranged at about with an interval of 1 millimeter in 1 micrometer distance. Their coils are arranged. Here in this case, coils are wide opened. So this is one differentiating point of the Treponema pallidum from Borrelia. It measures about 5 to 30 micrometers long and 0.3 to 0.7 micrometers wide. It takes the ordinary stains, ordinary stains like gram stains. So these are gram negative, whereas the Treponema pallidum cannot be seen under the is unable to see under the light microscope, but somewhat this can be seen under the light microscope, but it can be clearly visible by using the dark field microscope or phase contrast microscope. This Borrelia occurs as commensals in the mouth and genital area. Most of them are saprophytes, but some may exist as pathogens like Borrelia recurrentis, species like Borrelia recurrentis, Borrelia vincenti, and Borrelia burgdorferi. These three species are the medical important species which causes the diseases in human beings. This Borrelia recurrentis causes the relapsing fever, and vincenti causes the Vincent's angina, and burgdorferi causes the Lyme's disease. Here, this Borrelia recurrentis causes the relapsing fever. This relapsing fever is an arthropod-borne infection. usually caused by two arthropods. They are body louse and the sticks. Body louse and ticks. If you see the morphology of this Borrelia recurrentis, it contains irregular spirals with one or both ends are pointed, measures about 8 to 20 micrometers long and 0.4 micrometers wide. It contains 5 to 10 loose spiral coils at intervals of about 2 mm. It takes the strain of Giemsa and Leishman strain, Giemsa strain, Leishman strain, and dilute carbon function also it takes. If you see the cultural characteristic features, these are microaerophilic, aerobes and microaerophilic, and it requires complex media for its growth. Okay, it requires complex media for its growth, and it also can be cultivated in chick embryos. The route that is commonly used is CAM route, that is chorioallantoic membrane route, where after inoculation in this CAM, it multiplies and it can be identified by using can be identified by using the taking the material from the CAM root, and it is observed under a dark field microscope. And it also can grow in allantoic vessels. And if you see the antigenic properties, why it is called relapsing fever? Because of the presence of antigenic variations only. This causes the fever, repeated bouts of fever. You can see in this case, it is mainly due to the variations, antigenic variations in the host, due to the DNA rearrangements in the linear plasmid. Okay, because of these antigenic variations only, so many different types, different serotypes will cause the fever. So if you see, ultimate recovery occurs only after development of the immunity to all the different serotypes that is present in the human body, which may occur, which were developed due to the antigenic variations. And incubation period in this Borrelia recurrentis is about almost 2 to 10 days. After an incubation period of 2 to 10 days, febrile period will start. Febrile period will start after this fever will remain almost 3 to 5 days. After its fever will subside after 5 days. After again a febrile period will you'll see a period of we'll see the afebrile period. In this period, you can't see Borrelia bacterium in the blood. Only at the time of fever only we'll see the Borrelia in the blood. During afebrile period, we won't see the Borrelia. So fever subsides after 3 to 5 days. It followed by a afebrile period. After again another bouts of fever will set. So again in this period we'll see the Borrelia in the blood. So in between these two, between afebrile period, we won't see the Borrelia. This is the case. This is the situation. What happens in the relapsing fever, this disease finally subsides after 3 to 10 relapses because due to development of the immunity to all the different serotypes that were developed in the host. And coming to the laboratory diagnosis, we have microscopic examination, culture, serology, and animal inoculation. In microscopic examination, for wet preparation, a drop of blood is placed on the slide, and it is placed on the slide covered with a cover slip, and it is examined under the dark field microscope, where we will see a long, elongated, wide open coils with one end is pointed or rounded structures are seen. These are nothing but the Borrelia. It takes the stains like Giemsa, Leishman, and dilute normal toxin. Okay. Next one is culture. This culture is not useful in this case. It takes so much of time. It takes so many weeks, and some drawback. Another disadvantage is contamination is one problem in this case. Next one is serology is also not that much reliable for the diagnosis of this Borrelia recurrentis. But the best diagnosis for Borrelia is animal inoculation. Here, the patients are in animal inoculation. Procedure. First, we have to take a sample of blood, sample of patient's blood, and it is inoculated intraperitoneally into a white mouse. White mouse of where this Borrelia multiplies drastically in the blood and can be seen, can come to the peripheral blood. So after multiplication, it appears in the peripheral blood. So after 2 to 3 days, take blood from the tail of the white mouse, and it is examined under the dark field microscope for detection of the Borrelia. So animal inoculation is the best method for diagnosis, and another method is wet preparation is also used. For treatment, in case of treatment for Borrelia is tetracyclines, chloramphenicol, penicillin, erythromycin are effective drugs for the treatment of this Borrelia recurrentis. Prophylaxis includes control of the using insecticides. Using insecticides, avoiding the tick-borne, avoiding the where ticks are present, avoiding the area where ticks are present. Next, using the insecticides. These are the methods that are used to control the vectors, and maintaining the maintenance of the good personal hygiene plays an important role in prevention of the disease. Next comes the Borrelia. Next comes the Borrelia vincenti. It causes the Vincent's angina in association with the fusiform bacteria. So it is also called fusospiropetosis. The symbiotic relation called fusospiropetosis. This fusiform bacteria is a gram-negative bacteria. Is also present in the gingival area. When we will get this Vincent's angina, the predisposing factors are presence of poor oral hygiene, and persons who are taking immunosuppressive drugs, or persons who are immunocompromised. In these cases, we'll see the Vincent's angina. As a alone, it won't cause any disease. In also this Borrelia vincenti causes Vincent's angina only in association with the fusiform bacilli. So for lab diagnosis, we have to take the sample exudate from the gingival area, and it is examined under the dark ground microscope. In gram stain shows fusiform bacilli along with some lightly stained spirochetes, lightly stained Borrelia structures. wide open coils. And we see the culture of this Borrelia. It grows only in the presence of media which is enriched with serum, and it is incubated in anaerobic environment. And serological tests are also available, like ELISA, indirect immunofluorescence test. These tests are also available for detection of this Vincent's angina. Treatment is penicillin. Penicillin and metronidazole plays an important role for the treatment of the Borrelia vincenti. Next disease that is caused by Borrelia burgdorferi is Lyme's disease. This is first discovered in Lyme, which is Lyme city, which is present in the USA. That's why it is also called Lyme's disease. Is the natural reservoir for this Borrelia burgdorferi is deers, rodents are the natural reservoirs. Humans get the infection whenever it bites, whenever it is bitten by this exotic tick. This exotic tick feeds the blood of the deer. The clinical manifestations of this Lyme disease occurs in 3 stages. The first stage is localized infection. Appears as this wavy nature of the erythema. This is also called erythema migrans. Okay. Erythema migrans. This is first clinical manifestation, which is localized manifestation. Next stage is a disseminated stage. In this case, there is this Borrelia burgdorferi multiplies and spreads into the blood, causing disseminated infection, and stays in the internal organs after multiplication. It reaches the blood, where we can see the symptoms like headache, fever, myalgia, lymphadenopathy. This is seen only after weeks of the first stage. This is disseminated infection seen after some weeks of the first stage. This disseminated infection stage is followed by other stage, third stage. In third stage, we'll see we'll see encephalopathy, acrodermatitis, some neurological manifestations, some arthritic involvement, also seen only after some years of this disseminated infection. That is nothing but the third stage. And if you see the laboratory diagnosis of this Borrelia burgdorferi, we can see in a peripheral blood smear, showing elongated wide open coils. This is a fluorescent microscope showing the burgdorferi. Here in this case, Borrelia specific antibody tagged with fluorescent dye is used for detection of the specific antibody. Presence of that can be seen as fluorescing, bright illuminating bright green Borrelia structures against a dark background under the dark field under fluorescent microscope. The cultures that are commonly used media is BSK media. It is Barber's, Turner's, Kelly's media. It is aerobic and also a microaerobic, and it requires incubation almost two to more than 4 weeks also. In this case also ELISA is available, and fluorescent test, indirect fluorescent microscope is also available for detection of this test. for the detection of this disease. Treatment includes these are these it includes tetracycline, penicillin, and erythromycin. This plays an important role for the for the for a treatment protocol. No vaccine is available for this, but Borrelia burgdorferi. And next comes the Leptospira. It is also a very important organism. You may get a shots or essay in this Leptospira. This Leptospira is first observed by Weil. He observed a hepatorenal disease which is caused by the Leptospira. Later, Stimson observed this Leptospira in silver-stained cross sections of the kidneys who had died with this Leptospira. One person with this leptospirosis. It contains two important species. There are pathogenic species. There are two important species. There are Leptospira interrogans and Leptospira biflexa. Most of the pathogens are present in the Leptospira interrogans. This leptospirosis is also known as canicola fever, hemorrhagic fever, infectious fever, mud fever. So many names are given for this leptospirosis. The most important disease that we'll see in this leptospirosis is Weil's disease. And if you see the morphology of this Leptospira, these are elongated structure, tightly coiled, contains tightly coiled flexible spirochetes, measures about 5 to 15 millimeters long, with a fine spirals of 0.2 millimeters in breadth. Here in this case, one special characteristic feature is the presence of hooked ends. Either ends are hooked, resembles like umbrella handle. These are actively motile with the flexion, backward and frontward movement. I mean, both the flexion and extension are seen in this case. Exhibit active motility is seen best with the dark field microscope. Most of them are saprophytes. Some are pathogen species are there. If you see the culture of this Leptospira, it is very difficult to cultivate the Leptospira. It will grow in media containing media enriched with the rabbit serum. It also can be grown in solid media, liquid media, or in semi-solid media. The solid media that they are available are Cortho's Fletcher's media, Fletcher's media, Stewart's media. These are all solid media. And semi-synthetic media is EMJH media. This EMJH media is also called Elinghausen, McCullough, Johnson's, Harris media. This is a semi-synthetic media. Here in this case, the growth can be seen as a few millimeters below the media. So that means growth is seen underneath the, so a few millimeters below the media. So the optimum temperature is 25 to 30 degrees centigrade, and pH that is maintained is 7.2 to 7.5. If you see the resistant pattern, these are very heat susceptible. So because of that, these are very delicate organisms. It won't survive at room temperature, and they are very sensitive to acid also. So they are unable to survive in the gastric acid. Okay, and these are very susceptible to the antiseptics and disinfectants. And survival in water and soil depends on several factors like temperature, acidity of the temperature, acidity of the water, amount and nature of the pollution. These are all the factors that plays an important role for survival of the Leptospira in case of water. These will survive in moist condition for 3 to 5 days at 25 to 28 degrees centigrade, like that. If you see the antigenic structure of this Leptospira, this Leptospira shows cross reaction because of antigenic sharing. Several cross reactions are seen in this case. Several cross reactions are seen in the serological tests. Genus specific antigens are present in all members of the genus. So genus antigens that are present in particular genus is similar to all the members in this genus. And these are again classified into serogroups and serotypes based on the surface antigens. Whereas these genus-specific antigens are classified based on the somatic antigens, whereas this classification into serogroups and surface serotypes is based on the surface antigens. So antigenic structure varies from one strain to other strain. Again, this further classified by using the restriction endonuclease process and also DNA pairing, further classification. Here this pathogenic here this Leptospira contains two medically important species. They are Leptospira introrgens and Leptospira biflexa. This Leptospira introrgens again classified into 22 serogroups and more than 200 serotypes. This Leptospira introrgens contains several serogroups like Icterohemorrhagica, several serogroups like Icterohemorrhagia, Canicola, Pyrogens, Autumnalis, Australis, Pomona, Hebdomodis, Gripotyphosa. These are some of the important serogroups that are present in the Leptospira introrgens. Again, this Leptospira serogroup Icterohemorrhagica contains three important serovers like Icterohemorrhagia, Copenhageni, and Smithi. These are some of the important serovers of the serogroup Leptospira Icterohemorrhagia. And if you see this leptospirosis is mainly transmitted by rodents, mainly through rodents, and some animals are also plays an important role for the transmission of this leptospirosis. There are mice, dogs, swine, cattle are some of the important principal source of the infection. Even though they are carrying this leptospira, they may be asymptomatic. They may transmit to the animals, in which case the clinical manifestations can be seen after clinical manifestations are seen. And if you see the pathogenesis, the natural reservoir host, the in natural reservoir host, leptospiral infection can be seen as an asymptomatic. When they are transmitting the infection to the other animal, the clinical manifestation can be seen. Humans gets infected. Humans get infected whenever they are in contact with this leptospira. Whenever contact with leptospira in water contaminated by the water contaminated by the urine of the carrier animal. The carrier animal, humans may get the infection by human gets infection through the intact skin, intact mucosa of the mucosa of the skin, eyes, intact mucosa of the mouth, nose, or through abrasions of the skin. It can be the clinical picture varies from mild undifferentiated fever to the hepatorenal disease, which is a fatal disease. Again, this clinical manifestation is classified as two types. One is ecteric phase and non-ecteric phase. Some may present with most of the cases may present with meningeal involvement. Present with aseptic meningitis. Some may have abdominal symptoms, which is rare. Clinical diagnosis in this case is impossible. Is impossible in majority of the cases. Only there is only unless a high suspicious index is maintained. Okay. Again, this leptospira are seen in the patient only at the time of fever, acute phase. Leptospira are seen in the blood only the persons have only person is in acute stage. This the most important disease that is caused by this leptospira icterohemorrhagia is Weil's disease. It is a severe form. Presents with fever, stupor, and there is blood loses its capability to clot. So there may be bleeding within the tissues. So the persons may have anemia. After 3 to 5 days, internal organs are also involved. First involved organs are kidney and liver. And coming to the laboratory diagnosis, the samples that we collect for detection of this leptospirosis is blood. The blood is useful only in acute stage. In acute stage only, we can detect this leptospira in the blood. Other sample that we use is CSF, urine, and tissues. Sometimes from CSF, leptospira can be isolated. From urine, direct culturing of urine is also direct culturing of urine. It also it is impossible to isolate the leptospira by using direct cultivation of the urine. First comes laboratory diagnosis. First comes the microscopy. So blood is used. Detection of leptospira in blood only in early stages. In this case, dark field microscope or immunofluorescent microscope is used for detection of the leptospira. After that, urine is used for detection of the leptospira. The first few days, blood is useful. For cultivating the leptospira, here we are using the semi-synthetic media, semi-solid media, that is EMJH media. Elingason, Macculose, Jarris, Harrison's media. Here in this media, few drops, 2 to 3 drops of blood is inoculated. And it is incubated at 37 degrees centigrade for 3 to 5 days. After that, it is incubated in a dark room for more than 2 weeks. Okay, more than 2 weeks. After that, after some period, we had to examine the colonies examining the colonies every third day by using the um, by using dark field microscope. But finally, colonies, the colonies that had grown can be identified by using the type-specific sera. Next comes the animal inoculation. Before that, egg inoculation is also used, but it is cumbersome and cumbersome. At the same time, contamination is the main disadvantage. In case of egg inoculation, embryonated egg inoculation. In that case, cam route is the route that is used for the inoculation. In case of animal inoculation, here the blood sample is taken and it is inoculated intraperitoneally into the young guinea pig. If the blood sample contains leptospira icterohemorrhagia, the animal may die within 10 to 12 days. Okay, so indicating that indicating the severity of the leptospira icterohemorrhagia. After inoculation of this blood sample intraperitoneally into the young guinea pig, this leptospira multiplies drastically in the blood. So after 3 to 5 days, we had to collect the sample from the blood sample from the guinea pig, and it is examined under the dark field microscope. If you see any features of this leptospira, make a cardiac puncture, take the blood, and it is inoculated. It is inoculated on the culture media. So this is about the animal inoculation. And next comes the serology. Here, in serology, antibodies start to appear after first week and may rise peaks to rise at about the 4th week. After that it may diminish. Here we have two types of tests are there. First test is broadly reactive or genus specific test is available. Broadly reactive or genus specific test is available. Here in this case, leptospira biflexa Pak1 strain is used. This broadly reactive genus specific test is mainly used for identification of the leptospiral infection only, not for detecting the serotypes. It detects only the leptospiral infection. And this type specific tests are also available. Here in the broadly reactive genus specific test, the tests that are employed are SLE test, that is sensitized erythrocyte lysis test, agglutination test, and these tests are available in a broadly reactive genus specific test. And the second test is type specific test. This type specific test is mainly used for detecting the serovirus. In serovirus, it includes two types. First one is macroscopic agglutination test. This macroscopic agglutination test uses the formalized suspension of the prevalent leptospira. Agglutination can be observed if the test is positive. Agglutination can be seen by using the formalin suspension of the prevalent leptospira. Next type is microscopic agglutination test. This is also called MAT test. Here in this case, live cultures of the leptospira. Leptospira of different serotypes are used for detecting the different serotypes. So this is about if the test is positive, agglutination can be seen. Can be seen by using the dark field microscope by using the 10x. So this is more specific and reliable test when compared to the other tests. These type-specific tests are more reliable and more specific tests for diagnosis of the leptospiral infection. And next comes the diagnosis of the leptospiral in animals. Leptospiral in animals, it can be identified by using the animal inoculation, and examination of water can be identified water contamination. Examination of water means contamination of water with this leptospira can be identified by shaving by shaving a guinea pig and make a scarified lesions on the guinea pig, and this guinea pig is immersed into the water for an hour. If the water contains this leptospira, the animal may get the infection. This is about the diagnosis of the leptospirosis in animals and examination of water for pathogenic triple leptospirosis. As a whole, if you see, this leptospiral infection is a zoonotic infection. A zoonotic infection because this infection is transmitted from the mainly through the animals, mainly through rodents, rodents, dogs, cats, like that. It is human infection. Humans may get the infection whenever they are in contact with this contaminated water with leptospira. This infection is also can be seen in occupational can be seen in some occupations like agriculture workers. Like in agriculture workers, swine workers, sewage workers or mine workers. In those individuals also, this leptospiral infection is most common because these areas are usually contaminated by this leptospirosis. Previously it was known as a rural disease. Nowadays it became an urban disease because of overcrowded population, insanitary conditions, and large number of population of these rats, and walking with barefoots. Because of that also it became a urban disease also. Here this carrier animals may excrete almost 100 billion leptospira per ml of urine. Drug of choice for this leptospirosis is benzyl penicillin. Alternative drug is erythromycin, doxycycline, and this ampicillin, amoxicillin. These are the treatment of choice. And if you see the prophylaxis, general measures like wearing of clean clothes, wearing of footwear, next decontamination of the water, and these are some of the general measures may prevent the infection. Vaccines are till now under clinical trials. There are no vaccine is available for this leptospirosis. This completes the spirochetes. Thank you.